everybody. Welcome back to another podcast. So today we are talking about marriage and the sacred union of man and woman in God's eyes. The only reason I am talking about this is because I have been getting so many signs and so many things pop up on my social media that I'm sick of seeing, because I think unfortunately nowadays in this society we have a negative perspective on marriage that needs to be talked about. We have a negative perspective on a union that needs to be talked about, and a negative perspective on a relationship as a whole that needs to be talked about. Whether you're dating, you're married, you're engaged, anything, it is a union still. Whether you want to believe it or not, I don't need a piece of paper to tell me that it is still a union. So, in God's eyes, there are differences, obviously, between just regular dating and marriage. However, in this society, we have such a negative connotation on it that totally diminishes people's perspectives on if they even should get married or not. And I've seen so many people now say they're in their I don't need a man era, and they're in their I'm just an independent woman era, and they're in their, well, we can date for like 20 plus years and never get married era. And I'm not okay with that, and I feel like a lot of people should also not be okay with that. If you're a respectable woman, in my opinion, whether you're religious or not, you shouldn't be okay with that. Morals and values, for many people, does stem back to religion. But if you're atheist, right, and you have morals and values, you don't necessarily see it that it stems from a religious standpoint. However, you still have morals and values as a human being. So, but that's another conversation. So, no matter what, a man biologically is a certain way, and a woman biologically is a certain way. Obviously, I believe that the biological chemical makeup of our two different sexes is because of Jesus Christ. However, if you don't believe that, at least you still believe there's a common ground that a woman is this way and a man is this way. That is the common ground. That is the common conception. I don't care who you are, what you are. As a human being, we all have different biological, chemical balances, imbalances, chemical makeups, etc., whatever you want to call it. And so I think this is a really great topic to talk about. It's a topic I love talking about. I am so passionate on it, because I think it's such a beautiful thing, and I think that, you know, it truly is the best blessing that God gave me. So, yeah, let's just get straight into it. Another reason why I was kind of, like, preemptively pushed, so to speak, to talk about this was just because I kept seeing so many videos of Candace Owens, who I love her so much, she is my favorite, talking about this, and the GNB, which are the Girls Gone Bible, or GGB, Girls Gone Bible podcast. They were also talking about this, and they're like, by all means, my second favorite podcast out there. So I kind of was just like, you know what? I need to speak on this, because I have so many friends and so many people that I surround myself with that also have this negative notation on this. And I just really need to shed some light. So first things first, from a religious standpoint, we're going to talk about a few different verses here. One being Genesis 2:24. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. This verse highlights the sacred nature of marriage as a divine institution where husband and wife become one. So when Jesus is talking about a husband and wife becoming one flesh, that like literally that is meant to be taken literal. When I am experiencing a hardship, right, it's no longer just affecting me. It's affecting the whole household now. It's affecting me and my husband. When he's experiencing a hardship, it's no longer just affecting him, it's affecting both of us. If a family member says something about one of the people in the relationship, it affects them both. If they do something that affects one person, it affects them both. If a friend does something that's affecting one person, it's affecting them both. There is no more. When you agree to both commit under God to one another, there is no more me, I. It's we. You're gonna say we. You're gonna do we. We're going to act as a whole. It's a we. It's not a me. It's not a I. It's a we. When somebody says nowadays, why do you always have to say we? It should just be you. No. That is my husband. That is my fiance. That is my boyfriend. That is my partner. That is whoever, whatever your situation is, that is my person that I am now indebted to, and they're indebted to me. And we are a union under God. We are one flesh. I am submitting to him. He is submitting to me. We are submitting to God. We are one flesh. I don't know if you can hear my cat in the background. She is extremely vocal today. She is not fixed yet. So I think that we have to make the decision soon to get her fixed, because she's definitely starting to show some signs. She's getting to that age too where she tells us, if something's not right, and it's pretty apparent today. Today she's just very irritable and everything is bothering her, easily agitated. So currently she's in dire need of something. In that region specifically, she's getting very irritated, and I'm so sorry if you can hear that, but it's funny because she's just kind of looking at me like, Mom, this hurts, or whatever. I don't know if it hurts. I don't know. Maybe it just feels uncomfortable, but she's definitely experiencing something that she's trying to get my attention. So anyway, so yes, you become one flesh. Another Bible verse that I love is Ephesians 5:22 through 33. So I should say verses. This passage outlines the roles of a husband and a wife in a marriage, and emphasizing love and respect between partners. They emphasize how a woman is supposed to submit to their husband, and you can take that as you will, but in the Bible, submission is a sign of respect and love, and I'm holding my husband to a high regard. He is the priest of my household, so I am his church bride, and I am to submit and stand by him and support him and be with him and allow him to have the roles of the leader, and allow him to bring out my softer side, and allow him to be the masculine leader and the masculine role model that we need in the household. And what that looks like for us is, physically, okay? Physically, this is an example. I don't take out the trash. He takes out the trash. I shouldn't say I don't. We clean together. I clean all day because I'm stay at home. However, he does help out, and if there are some things that he's doing as a project or whatever, he cleans up after himself. But a way that I say thank you for going out and experiencing the world and taking all the weight of the world on your shoulders and making us money, I cook and I stay at home to teach and nurture while he's out there dealing with the hard stuff. So that's kind of what that outlines a little bit. I encourage everybody to read that on their own. I also encourage you to read 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verses 1 through 40. It addresses marriage-related issues, including the purpose of marriage, divorce, remarriage, etc. Through the eyes of God, you will always be one. You are one, and you will always be one. I saw a quote one time that said, society says you should choose somebody who makes you happy, whereas the Bible says you should be happy with your choice, and you should learn that every day you're going to have to choose them over and over again. You don't just get married because you're like, oh my gosh, love at first sight, I love this person so much, and he's just the perfect person. No. The Bible will tell you, you get married to somebody, and you choose to continue to be happy every day. Love is not a thing that you just are born to say, hey, I love this person, let's be together. No. Love is something that you're going to choose. You saw this person, you were attracted to them, you had maybe a lot of the same interests, hobbies, whatever, and then you learn more about them. Maybe you don't like something. You don't just divorce them because of that. You say, okay, we're going to get through this, and I love you no matter what, and I'm going to always choose you because you are the person that I firmly believe in my heart God sent to me. And you are the person that God is telling me, hey, step back for a second because you have a lot of flaws too. Learn to love your flaws together. Choose to love each other every single day of your life. Never step out of the marriage. If you don't like something the other person is doing, you say that. Boom. That's it. It should be that easy, but unfortunately in this day and age, it's not. All right, another one, Hebrews 13:4. Let marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed be undefiled. For God will judge the sexual, immoral, and adulterous. This verse emphasizes the importance of respect and faithfulness within marriage. Well, another thing that isn't talked about in this day and age. 1 Peter 3:7. Likewise, your husbands be understanding with your wives, showing honor to each of them as a weaker partner, where a lot of people read this wrong. He's not saying weaker partner as in they are no good. He's meaning biologically women are not supposed to be as strong as the man. We're not. We weren't put on this earth to endure everything men endure. We are the nurturers and the teachers, and we have, the motherly instincts, as people say. Truly, that is a woman's instinct. Women are supposed to be softer and weaker. They're not supposed to be this great leader and this great powerful priest of the house, That's why women aren't supposed to be pastors and priests and all that. But anyway, so what was I reading? Oh, showing them honor to each as a weaker partner, since you are also heirs of the same gracious gift of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered. This verse encourages husbands to treat their wives with understanding and respect, emphasizing the importance of partnership. So women, don't hold your husband to too high of a standard, right? Because you have to understand they can endure what they can endure, right? If you read the Bible and understand what a man was put on this earth to do, that is all their mind is capable of doing. So when we want them to do something outside of that, we need to step back and understand, oh wait, they can't, but I can. Vice versa. Men can't get upset at a woman for not doing a man's job. Because a man cannot look at a woman and say, oh, you can do this, this, and this, so you should be able to do this, this, and this. No. If we don't do it right, you have to understand it's because our brain is not wired that way. You were put on this earth to do that, not me. And Colossians 3:18-19. Wives, submit to your husbands as it fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh or abusive to them. This passage addresses the roles of husbands and wives yet again, emphasizing love and respect as essential for a healthy marriage. So, a lot of people will look at a submissive wife and say, oh, your husband is just controlling. You know, you don't have a backbone, yada yada. That's not true. That is not true at all. My husband allows me to be my feminine self and my softer, weaker self. And I think that is the most beautiful thing ever. Because I wasn't always given that gift. There were times in my life where I did have to be the leader of my own self, and I did have to take control of my own self. But I don't have to do that anymore. He does it for me. Just like if somebody looks at the husband and says, you're controlling your wife too much. Well, am I controlling her, or am I taking something off her plate that allows her to be her true divine wife role? Like, am I allowing her to be her feminine self because God told me to? Or am I controlling her because I want to be abusive and toxic? No. Like, people look at these conservative men as toxic, and that's not true. Some people maybe it depends how they were raised and how they look at a few things, I guess. But the mindset of, I'm going to be the leader, I'm going to be the provider, my wife does not have to do any of that, I don't want her to worry about that stuff, I am going to, even if she wants to work maybe, I'm still going to make it where I'm the sole provider, and her work, maybe that money is just fun money or something, you know? That's not toxic. That is not toxic masculinity. That is not controlling. That is a conservative couple who is living at the will of God. Exactly how it is written in the Bible. That is what they are living out. And there is nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I'm so passionate on this because I am by nature very submissive, you know? And maybe a little bit more than others, and that's okay. And so I did find myself in a lot of relationships growing up where I thought the way to please them was to do every single little thing they asked me to do, even if it was morally wrong. And that's not okay. That is not okay. Everything that is asked of me in my relationship now, if it is morally incorrect, my partner would not be asking that of me. And I can now sit back and comfortably and confidently say that because I have full trust in him and he has full trust in Jesus Christ. So he, I know, would never ask me to do something that is not morally correct. And I can look back and say, the things that I have done, I also wanted to do. You know, it wasn't unconsensual, it was consensual, because I believed that that is morally correct. And, you know, along the way, everybody sins. Along the way, everybody makes decisions that maybe are not morally correct and maybe not biblically correct. But our debt was already paid in full, You know, Jesus Christ died on died on the cross for our sins. And he did that in a way that now we don't have to worry if we're going to hell or not. If you believe in him and believe his word and believe that he did that, you're gonna make it. You'll be fine. If you are kind of lukewarm, you know, so to speak, I've talked about lukewarm Christianity, then, you know, that's another story, and that's between you and God. If you take it to your advantage and you say, yeah, Jesus already died, so I can just do whatever I want and don't care if it's correct or not, you know, that's also between you and God. But if I'm sitting here believing in my heart that everything I have done is either justifiable or morally correct, or I have already repented and told Jesus and took it up with him and let go and let God, and I'm believing that I'm making it to heaven because Jesus died on the cross for my sins, and I wholeheartedly believe that, then I think that I'm gonna make it. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and say everybody deserves it, because we don't. We're very undeserving. However, Jesus will always look at you and say you're deserving. Jesus will always look at you and say, let's give you a second chance here. Let's give you a second chance here. Let's give you another shot. Come on, repent to me. I don't care if it's right now, if it's tomorrow, if it's in 20 years, repent to me. Let's go. And just the fact that he can do that and look past everything that I or my partner or you or him or her have ever done in their life, it's incredible. And I think that one of the main things you have to understand in a marriage is Jesus looks at the church as his followers and his people, and he died for his people. And so, going back to the conversation, if my husband does not look at me like he will die for me, then that's not a biblical relationship. That's not what a marriage is supposed to be. But vice versa. I have to look at my husband in awe. The church looks at Jesus now and says, oh my gosh, I will follow you forever. I love you. You are the epitome of father. You are my leader. You are who I'm going to worship and submit my life to. And that is how women are supposed to look at their husbands. This is a very controversial topic, and it shouldn't be, but it is, because we live in a very feminist, modern world where everybody wants to do their own thing. I'm sorry, but nothing brings me more joy than when my husband walks through the door, or my partner or whoever walks through the door. Nothing brings me more joy than to see him sitting at the table enjoying a meal that I cooked, knowing that he now can lay everything that he just went through all day long. He can lay it all out on the table because I am his safe place. Nothing brings me more joy. Sorry if you hear that in the background. They're mowing our lawn. The Bible doesn't explicitly call girlfriends to submit to their boyfriends, right? The biblical concept of submission primarily applies to wives submitting to their husbands within the context of marriage. So note that Ephesians 5:21 encourages all Christians to submit to each other. It's the marriage relationship that specifically highlights this principle. Now, marriage-specific submissions is the most prominent biblical passage in Ephesians 5:22-33. So you don't establish a framework of submission between unmarried individuals, like boyfriends or girlfriends. However, if you are engaged to be married, right, you have to practice submission, because you have to learn that the boyfriend or the fiance, whoever you're getting married to, you need to show them that you are marriage material, right? I mean, that is what we call it now, marriage material. You have to show them, okay, this is why you want to get married to me. I will submit to you. I will do this, I will do that, and the third. A headship or helper relationship exists in marriage. It is exclusive to marriage. This kind of relationship does not exist for those who are dating, courting, or preparing for marriage. In the sense of marital submission, no unmarried women owe a submission to a man before being married to them. However, in scripture, it talks about preparing the way, submitting yourself to Christ first so you can prepare to submit to your husband. That is what I'm doing, I submitted myself to Christ. I'm still submitting every day, and it is a relationship that I choose. Now, do I choose to submit to my husband? Yes. Do I choose to submit to my soon-to-be husband? Yes. Because I am showing him that I am submissive. And I am showing him this is why you want to marry me. And I am preparing for that commitment. There's other things that we do in our relationship to prepare for that commitment. I'm not going to go into because it's very personal, because our story is very untraditional, because it did start out very untraditional. However, there are ways that we have to try to repent on that and try to not fix it, but atone for that behavior. So yes, submission is one major way. And in that, it is preparing my heart to make that commitment to both him and Christ. Because Christ is my Father first and foremost, and I have to answer to my Father, and my husband, partner, fiance, whoever has to answer to their Father as well, and has to answer to my Father. You have to look at Jesus as, okay, Jesus is my Father, yes, but he is also your Father. So just as a man has to go through the Father here on earth to get to the wife, he also has to go through my Heavenly Father. Now, that is not to condemn anyone. There's no explicit condemnation of premarital pregnancy. Some interpretations from, different denominations or whatever, they might discourage premarital sex, obviously, morally. However, the Bible does not explicitly condemn all instances of premarital pregnancy, because children are a blessing, right? Children are often seen as a blessing from God, a heritage, and a reward. So it says here on some AI thing, in summary, while the Bible strongly suggests that having children is a blessing within marriage, it does not explicitly condemn all instances of premarital pregnancy or the raising of children outside of a marriage. The specific views on these issues can vary within Christianity. An individual conscience plays a role in how Christians approach these complex situations. Obviously, you can read all day long. There's different ways to get around it. There's different ways to cope with the situation given. Let's face it though, yes, there was a previous sin made, right? Outside of marriage. We all know. We're not dumb. But the pregnancy itself is never a sin. Pregnancy is not a sin. To be pregnant, whatever your situation, because children are a heritage and a reward from the Lord himself. Now, why is he rewarding you, you might say? I don't know. Nobody knows the answer to that. Nobody. God might have spoken to you and given you an answer. Great. I would never trust an outside source, though, to tell me what God's intention of a reward would be for me particularly. That is between me and him. And I'm not going to know that full answer until the day I die. I might not even know it then, you know? So the very last thing I'm going to talk about real quick is atheists. Stop saying Jesus isn't real. Jesus Christ is real. Jesus Christ is a historical figure. Like, it's already historical facts that we have proven over the years that he did indeed exist. So you can't say that he didn't. You cannot deny his existence. That would be like me saying my great-grandma didn't exist. Well, I know I had to have gotten here from somewhere, so yes, she did. You know what I mean? So if you look it up on Google, just type in Jesus historical figure. It will literally say, yes, Jesus is widely accepted as a historical figure by scholars and historians. While the details of his life, as described in the New Testament, are not universally accepted, the existence of a Jewish preacher named Jesus of Nazareth in the 1st century AD is a widely held scholar consensus. And here's why. Virtually all scholars of antiquity accept that Jesus was a historical figure. The idea that he was a purely mythological character is considered a fringe theory. There's also historical evidence. While the New Testament accounts are the primary source for information about Jesus, there is also evidence from other sources, including Roman doctrine, Roman historian Tacitus, I don't remember how to say that, a Jewish historian of the same time. The baptism of Jesus by John the Baptist and his crucifixion by Pontius Pilate are widely accepted as historical events, even by those who may not accept other aspects of the biblical narrative. The epistles of Paul, some of the earliest Christian writings, refer to Jesus within 25 years of his death, further solidifying the idea of his historical existence. There's also archaeological events or evidence. While there isn't a treasure trove of archaeological evidence directly confirming Jesus' life, some archaeological evidence discoveries have corroborated elements of the New Testament story, like the existence of ancient Nazareth and the practice of Roman crucifixion. Now, obviously, throughout the years, we have found different things. Obviously, the shroud is a huge thing right now, still going on. Everybody is like totally, oh my gosh, what the heck is that? There was no elements of anything found on it that would make it fake. So there's a lot of things out there that you can't deny. So when people say, I don't believe in Jesus Christ, okay, well, what don't you believe in? You don't believe that he's the Son of Man? Okay, cool, that's fine, that's your belief. But you cannot say you don't believe in him. He's not Santa Claus. He's an actual person that was living on this earth. So, in summary, yes, while the specifics of Jesus' life and ministry remain subjects of debate and interpretation, the overwhelming consensus is that he was indeed a real person who lived in the 1st century AD and had a significant impact on the course of history. So even if I've already had people come up to me that are atheists saying, I don't necessarily believe that he's the Son of Man, but I loved what he preached about. and I love his morals, and I love his values. I said, great, cool. Then I encourage you to read more about the Bible, and I encourage you to read the Bible. I encourage you to read the Gospels, and then come back to me and tell me if you think that his morals and values and the things that he was preaching weren't from God, because they were. So whether you just look at him as just an everyday prophet that comes and just speaks all these different things about God, cool, great. Or if you look at him as the actual Son of God, it doesn't change the fact that he was indeed real. So people who don't believe, you need to stop saying just, oh, I don't believe in Jesus Christ. He's not Santa. He's not the Tooth Fairy. He's not all these mythological creatures we make up to our kids. He's an actual historical human being that was on this earth. His crucifixion happened, his baptism happened, you read it here. So for you to try to argue that he didn't exist, there's no evidence to back that argument up anymore. We've gotten to an awesome point in our life on this earth where our technology has really skyrocketed to the point where we now have evidence of these things actually existing and these things actually happening. So you can't argue that it did not. You cannot. I believe in science, yes. I also am a firm believer in Jesus Christ, and in, Jesus Christ being the Son of Man, that's what I mean. And I am a firm believer in God. I am a follower, right? Now, you can believe in them both, because I do, but I believe in historical facts. And this man was a historical figure. I think it's so funny that people still try to deny it. That would be like saying that, George Washington didn't exist. We weren't around when he was around, but we have evidence. Just because you weren't around when Jesus was around doesn't mean that we don't have evidence that he existed. So that's just, it's a funny topic to me, because there's so many people that I talk to on a daily basis who continue to deny his existence. And that's just not fair. One, he's not here to prove himself. And two, he shouldn't have to prove himself. Like, when I die, I don't want to have to prove that I existed. You know what I mean? It's funny. What is funny to me, though, is when people say, I believe he was a person, and I loved his morals and values, and I loved the things that he preached. Where did those ideas come from then? Because he was Jewish. So where did the idea of God come from? And how is he going to call himself a Messiah? He knew he was going to get crucified for that. He knew he was going to get some kind of penalty. He knew they were calling him a blasphemist. And he still said it. Why would he go through all of that trouble to literally die if it wasn't true? I appreciate morals and values too, but just because I'm sitting here preaching the gospel and have all these followers and have great morals and values doesn't mean I'm the Son of Man. It's baffling to me. It's baffling to me. Because I could come out and say that I'm a prophet, I'm the Messiah, I'm this, I'm that all day long. But I'm not. And how do we know we're not? One, controversial belief, but I'm a woman, okay? And two, I don't have enough evidence backing my arguments up. You know why? Because God himself did not call me to do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and say this, this, and this, and this, and this. I'm not out here performing miracles, right? But he did. He did. And I guess we live in a world where there's all kinds of stuff written in books that we believe, but the one book we still have a hard time believing in is the Bible, even though it's one of the oldest books. So I just I don't understand how somebody can look at different counts of stuff and different, like the Gospels, for example. I don't understand how someone can look at the things they wrote about what was going on and say, oh, no, that didn't really happen. They're just liars. Like, what? I don't get it. I really do not get it. I hope and I pray that our children do not grow up believing this kind of stuff, or not believing, because this day and age, it's a very see it to believe it kind of thing, kind of society, and you cannot live that way. Literally, the word faith. You know what? Let's pull it up. The word faith, I'm pretty sure, is going to mean something along the lines of not seeing, right? Faith. It's the most basic form, is a belief in something that lacks concrete proof, often involving trust or confidence in a person, idea, or concept. In a religious context, faith can be described as trust in God or a divine power. So, literally right there. It doesn't have concrete proof. Now, for me it does, because for me the only proof I need is the Bible. And just knowing that Jesus Christ existed, that's all the proof I need. And because I talk to God on a daily basis, and I have seen and heard the things that he has done in my life and in other people's lives around me, and that is the only evidence I need, right? Literally does not have concrete proof, but I still believe in it. That's faith. When people say, oh, I'm taking a leap of faith, I'm transferring jobs. Okay, well, you don't know if that job's gonna work out. You have no concrete proof that it will for sure work out and you will be there for the next 20 some years. You don't. Nobody has that laid out in front of them unless they sign their life away on a piece of paper. However, even if that's the case, I mean, that's not really the job for you then, probably. But whatever. Some people like that, I guess. Structure. But you don't have that concrete proof. Nobody does, ever, with anything you do in life. So what are you doing? You're taking a leap of faith. That is the expression. Why is that the expression? Because you are trusting in it, even though you cannot see it. Even though it's not here yet and you don't know for sure, you're still doing it. Well, that's why we believe in God, ladies and gentlemen. We don't see everything and we don't hear everything and we don't even know everything, but guess what? All I know is the certain amount of evidence that I have in my hand with my Bible and the things, like I said, that I have seen and heard that he has done in my life himself. That's all the faith, that's all the trust I need. That's all the evidence I need to have faith. And the fact that some people still aren't willing to do that, just baffles me. Now, I know I said that was the last thing. This is the last thing, because it ties back into what the original topic was kind of about. So, biological woman versus biological man. When I say marriage or a union, it's between a man and a wife. And what I mean by that is an actual man and an actual woman. Now, controversially, biological woman refers to an individual who has female biological sex characteristics, typically having XX chromosomes and a female reproductive system. The term is used in a biological context and is often debated in relation to transgender rights and gender identity, etc., etc., etc. I don't want to get into any of that. However, that is what I mean by a biological woman. It even says here, biological women are biologically more submissive than men. Now, biological men definition is individuals typically assigned male at birth based on their sex chromosomes XY and other biological characteristics such as male reproductive organs. Often used to describe the presence of these biological characteristics, it's important to note that gender identity one's internal sense of being male, female, or neither is separate from biological sex. The only reason that it says that is because society has told us that it is okay for a man to marry a man and a woman to marry a woman. Homosexuality is a sin, as it is written in the Bible, yes. Now, there are some older traditional Christians that would say it's not a sin to know that you like the same sex, but don't act on it, yada, yada, yada. I think that defeats the purpose of what Jesus intended. I think that if you have an inclination of something, you need to take that up with God first. If you feel as if God is actually the one speaking to you and telling you to go through with it, then by all means, who am I to say not to? I think that a marriage, though, as it refers to man and woman, that is what I am talking about when I say submissive wives and submissive husbands. That is what I am talking about. I'm talking about a woman and a man, because that is a biblical, traditional marriage. Partnership, whatever you want to call it, union, togetherness, relationship, whatever. I have tons of friends and family members and other people that surround me who are homosexual, and I have others that are heterosexual, and I have others that are asexual, and yada, 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 yada. I don't care about all of that. I really don't, because you're not affecting me. However, all I care about is what Jesus himself wants and what Jesus demands of us and commands of us. And if we are not following his commands, we're not doing our part on this earth to live out his will. So I encourage you to dig deep and to not allow every little thing in society to affect you, because you will get hurt or hurt others or whatever. And I encourage everybody to listen to what I'm saying with an open mind and to listen to it very loosely. It is a controversial topic, and it's a very hard topic to have, and it's a very offensive topic nowadays because of the way that it's portrayed in media and whatnot. And I just want to say, Christianity is not called to judge. We are not called to judge anybody on what they should or should not do. All I'm here to do is evangelize what Jesus wants us to do and commands of us. And if you listen to what I say, great. If not, that's okay. That's okay. I firmly do not believe that I am not going to see you up there, because you might be an amazing person and still have amazing morals and values. You might live your entire life and not act on certain things. You might, I don't know. I encourage everyone to keep living how they feel they're supposed to live according to the Bible, and the Bible only, because these are our instructions. When people say, well, we don't have an instruction manual, this is it right here, the Bible. This is our instruction manual. This is what we are supposed to follow. So I don't want to offend anybody, and I also don't want to lose anybody who's close to me with that. So I'm not going to speak too much on that, because again, I don't want to say the wrong thing or anything like that, but I do want to encourage wholeness and peacefulness and light and love, which is what Jesus is. And if you take away anything that I'm saying right now, take away the fact that this is not our life, this is his. We are not living for ourselves. We are living for Him. So just like when women become mothers, they say, oh, this isn't my life anymore. I'm living for my child now. Yes. But when you're in a relationship, committed relationship, you are now one person, you and your spouse, your partner. So you need to really dig deep, because this society is so selfish and so of the world, and we're not called to be of the world. We're called to be not of the world and to be only of God, and live by God and for God. So yeah, all that to say, I love you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.